Tracee Loran, and I do have a story for you. So, a few years ago, right before COVID, my goddaughter was visiting me, and we wanted to go to a college tour. So, we went to Harvard and we took the bus, but to get to the bus, we jumped in an Uber share. So, this is when Uber share was still popular. Now when COVID, it's not so popular anymore, but so she jumps in. So the Uber comes and we see someone's already in the back seat. So my goddaughter jumps in the front. I jump in the back. And I notice that there's a baby car seat. So that's the first thing I see. And I'm like, oh, but it's empty. And I said, oh, where's the baby? And as I'm saying, where's the baby? I look over at a pregnant woman, not just pregnant, in labor. And I said, you're having a baby? And she's like, yeah. And I just start freaking out. And I'm like asking her all these questions. Well, where's your husband? Where's your boyfriend? Where's your family? I'm just like, and I know she's like, girl, I am having a baby. I don't have time for all of this stuff. So I grab her hand. I'm like, well, can I pray for you? And she's like, sure. So she's squeezing my hand and I'm praying for her. And then I'm yelling at the driver, why do you have the pregnant woman in the car in a share? And he's just like, her doctor ordered an Uber, and back when Uber Share first started, Share was the default, right? So you pressed it and you didn't know. So her doctor didn't know that it was a Share. I'm like, well, why did you pick me up? You just kept going to the hospital. So he's driving not fast enough for me. I'm like, man, push it. Let's get to the hospital. So we get to the hospital. I jump out like a mad woman. I grab the car seat and I grab the pregnant lady and I run into the emergency room. This woman's having a baby. So they're like, all right, we'll take it from here. So they got her and they put her in the wheelchair and they wheeled her upstairs. And I was like, so my goddaughter, I just got back in the car. And just like a New York moment, we go off to the bus station. And I was like, this is so New York. This is so New York. Like it really is. But it was crazy. I mean, it was so crazy. I thought about her. I wrote about it on Instagram and on Facebook. And, it was just one of those, seriously, a New York moment. But my friends always say only me, because the craziest stuff happens to me all the time. Like all the time. So that's my story.
Well, hello, this is Don.
And this is Gina with Focused Healthy Family.
And this is podcast number 137. And today we have such a great honor today to be talking with Tracee Loran, an actress from New York. Tracee Loran is a New York City-based actress, writer, producer, and content creator who has divided her time between New York City and Mississippi for the past 6 years, caring for her grandmother. Her series Black History Baddies has 1.5 million views across social media. It was conceived during her time in Mississippi after reading an article about Claudette Colvin, a pioneer. She felt she should have learned about this in school, but never did. In this one-woman show, Tracee plays all the parts: writing, acting, directing, editing, researching, cinematography, costume design, and more. She has also appeared in national TV ads for major brands like HBO, FedEx, AT&T, Arby's, and Sony. Tracee can share lessons from her last 6 years caregiving, including how she manages the day-to-day practices of self-care, embraces patients, and gets help. So, Tracee, welcome. Like I said, I'm excited for you being here because watching your stuff, you just have such wonderful energy. I was so taken by the Baddies show that you do, and how you make history fun, but also you learn about people you never would have. And it is sad that it's not done in school. So anyway, I'll stop going on. I'll let you do some talking. But welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you both. Thank you.
So I'm
And thank
kind
you
of
for watching
curious.
Baddies.
What's that?
Thank you for watching Baddies. Thank you.
Yes, I enjoyed it as well. It was a lot of fun.
And it's still going on to this day.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause
We'll have to keep up with it.
Season 4 dropped this year.
okay. Well,
So
That's
yeah,
a
I'll drop them during Black History Month so they can run for Black History Month and then Women's History Month, which that's a happy accident that they're both of the months are together. And yeah, so thank you so much. I'm 4 years in. It's a lot of work,
yeah.
but I'm happy to do it.
Well, I'm kind of curious. Of course, we work with the sandwich generation, with people that are dealing with an aging parent or a loved one, and you, of course, are doing that with your grandmother. You're 97, is that correct? 97 years old.
97. She turned
Mm,
97 in June.
wow.
I'm kind of curious as to how you got into that and how you became the caregiver for your grandmother.
Sure. So my grandmother she stayed alone until she was 90.
Mm,
After my grandfather passed away, my cousin stayed with my grandmother, and then he graduated and went off and lived his life. And so my grandma stayed by herself for about 20 plus years, maybe 20
mm,
years, maybe 18 years or so. And so she turned 90, and woohoo, for her 90th birthday, she fell.
Oh
mm,
my.
That was her present to herself. She fell about 4 or 5 months after she had her 90th birthday. And she and I, we always talk in the morning, which we still do when I'm not there, talk to her every morning around the same time. And so she had called me and she sounded okay, but it was a little bit earlier than she normally calls. And so she said, well, I fell. And I said, okay. And so she tells me the whole story. She was taking out pulling the garbage out. She still took her own garbage down to the end of the road. In the country, you have to take your garbage to the end of the road and they come and pick it up and everything. So she would drive it down every Wednesday. And so she said she was pulling the garbage out and she lost her balance and she fell back and she slammed against the hot water tank.
mm,
So subsequently, she broke a lot of bones in her ribs and she ended up with pneumonia and just all of this stuff. So her doctor was like, yeah, it's about time for you guys Miss Erling, her name is Erling. Miss Erling shouldn't be living by herself anymore. So my mom headed there first and she was on her way to Hong Kong. So she said, hey, can you come down a little early? Because I normally would spend the last month with my grandmother. So this was during December of 2017. And I said, sure. So I just closed up shop in New York and beat it to Mississippi. And I stayed with her initially for 9 months to help her heal and kind of get back on her feet, which she did. She had around the clock care, nurses, and a physical therapist. But my mom and I decided at that point, like, hey, well, this is what has to be done. So I stayed for 9 months, and then my mom came and gave me a break, and I came back to New York, and we did the 3 month thing for a while, and then my mom was like, 3 months is just a little crazy. So, because my mom has a business and a husband in the Chicago area, so
Oh
she said,
my.
"Why don't we do 6 months?" And so that's kind of how it started. So now we 6 months on, 6 months off. So
wow.
that's pretty much the beginnings of my caretaking for grandma.
So how does it affect your career then? Because I mean, that's a lot of one traveling and then a lot of we know what it's like to take care of an aging loved one. We're in the process of that ourselves. How do you do all of that and still have that career a wonderful career like you do?
That's a great question. It's challenging, of course. It would be false to say, oh, it's just a breeze, right? It's not a breeze. Caretaking is not a breeze. It's a labor of love, but it's not a breeze. There comes
Mm-hmm.
I Black History Baddies actually is the one great thing, or one of the great things that came out of this caretaking. Because I was here in Mississippi, there in Mississippi, and I'm like, what am I gonna do in Mississippi for 6 months straight? I'm not auditioning in New York, and with virtual stuff you can audition, but then you still got to go and shoot it. So
Mhm.
I can audition, but I got to take off to California and New York to shoot it. And so that's really how Black History Baddies and my content creation was really born, because I said, hey, I have all this land here. I have just, it's open. I don't have to worry about people stealing my equipment. And I said, you need to start taking advantage of this, saying this to myself. Got to start taking advantage of what you have here. And so that's what I did. I had to teach myself how to edit because I didn't know how to edit. And I just started doing it, and this just opened my career up in another way that I
Mhm.
never thought was possible. And so while it's still difficult because I'm filming while I'm taking care of grandma and I'm having to do all this stuff, going to take a take, come back in and check on her, go out and do another take. And, so she gets a kick out of watching me out of the window. She'll say, "You're running back and forth." She just gets a kick out of it. And so, yeah, it's challenging, but I found a way to navigate. I can do virtual meetings. If I have anything that I need to take care of, I can do it that way at least. So I'm not completely disconnected from LA or New York. It's just a little bit more complicated if I have to come to LA or New York. Now it's a little easier because we have help in the
Mm.
house for the first 3 years. Mom and I, whenever it was our tours of duty, I like to say, we didn't have any other help,
Mm.
just us. And we had family. Let me take that back. We have family in Mississippi, and they are lovely. They're wonderful people. And anytime we need to take a step out or go to the store or something, they're willing to come because they love grandma. But I mean, straight like 7, 6 hours of help just in the house consistent.
Mm.
So now, 3 years later, we finally have amazing women who work from 8:30 to 3:30,
Mm.
Monday through Friday, and then every other Saturday. So now it makes it a little easier for me to do my filming during the day, or, step away, take care of myself, just mental health and my own personal well-being, or my mom's when she's there. So now it's a little bit easier to navigate my career. Not easy, but easier for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a juggling act. Any of us, working and caring for, I mean, my dad's at a facility. He has Parkinson's with dementia and he's at a memory care facility, but being a part of his care and still, visiting him, trying to spend time with him and um yeah, and what you mentioned, having time for self-care, that's so
Very
important.
important.
I actually took this morning and I went hiking by myself. It's such a treat because this is something I've enjoyed with my kids, but I usually go with them. And I had homeschooled up until recently, and my daughter's in high school, and I'm like, I can go by myself. I don't have to be going with somebody. And so it was just different. But that self-care is so important. And tell us more things that you do, to incorporate that, especially when you're there in Mississippi.
Sure, and congratulations for going on a solo hike.
Thanks.
So
Yeah,
that was
I had dad duty today, this morning, so I had to go
no
in.
hiking for you. No hiking
Yeah,
for you
no
today.
hiking for me.
So when I'm in Mississippi with my grandmother, my cousins, I'm very close to a lot of my cousins there. We go to the movies. I love to do that. Or sometimes I just want to sit outside. We
Mhm.
we are fortunate and blessed enough that we have a lot of land that my great grandfather left to us, and so just go out there and maybe I'll listen to the birds. This year, I actually raised some birds.
Hmm.
I
Wow.
got a mom came and nested in a piece of furniture that I had bought that I was going to restore. That's another thing I do. I do vintage furniture restoration. But I was going to restore a piece of furniture and I left it outside. And surprise, one day I went and it was a beautiful nest. And I was like, oh my gosh, this nest is glorious. And then the next day there were 4 eggs. I was like, what this? So I raised these eggs until they hatched and then they flew the coop. I was so sad when they left. But so just stuff like that, doing my vintage furniture restoration, just sitting outside, listening to the birds, or going to town and just taking a ride around town, just things like that. I love thrift store shopping. That's how I buy all of my Black History Baddies costumes. I get from the thrift store, and I have over 100 pieces of wardrobe.
Wow.
I
So,
love some of it too. I love the fire, the one with the fire. I'm trying to think of the name of the person, but you had that thing that slid down over your hip.
oh, Mary Williams.
Yeah, that with the fire hat and all that stuff.
I got that from an auction, actually. I got.
Ah.
Oh,
It's funny. I got that from an auction a year before Black History Baddies started. So I had never gone to. I don't know if you guys have ever done a live auction before, but I'm like, oh my god, I'm going to go to this auction, and it was another kind of vintage store that was going out of business. Sad. It was so amazing. So I'm like, I'm going to get something. So I sat in this auction and they came up with these two fire hats. And I'm like, I'm gonna bid on these. I don't know when I'm ever gonna use them. I was doing content creation, so it's not like I wasn't doing anything, but I was like, I'm getting them. One is from the 80s,
Okay.
and one is from a little further back, maybe the 60s or something. And so I bid on them and brought them home. My grandma was like, what are you gonna do with those things? I don't know, but one day I'm gonna use them. And sure enough, a year later, I do research and I find the first Black woman to ever be a firefighter. And I'm like, I got a helmet.
That's great. I love
Already ready for it.
Uh, I'm kind of curious as what part of Mississippi, because I lived in Jackson for about 3.5 years way back when.
Okay, so it's a town, you know, Brookhaven at all?
Yeah, I'm trying to, is that close to Jackson?
It's between Jackson and New Orleans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to go to New Orleans. I traveled, I was in business, so I traveled that route constantly going to New Orleans, all around Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, and some of Alabama. So
Okay,
um,
that's great.
Mississippi was a great place. I liked it. There isn't as much to do there though, as I would imagine there is in New York.
Just slightly different.
I mean, just last night I was at an event for Audible, which was for Stevie Wonder, which yeah, Michelle Obama was there. And I'm like,
Oh,
and here's the thing. What I love about New York is that the stuff is random. Like you're sitting at home, what time is it now? It's like 1:30. 1:30, I can just be home. And by like 8 o'clock, I can be at some event because someone randomly said, hey, do you want to go to this event? And that's what happened yesterday. My
oh
friend called
wow.
at 11 and she goes, do you want to go to like a swanky event? I was like, okay, do tell. And she's like, well, da, 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 and Michelle Obama's going to be there. I was like, all right, I think I'll just get myself together and go to this little swanky. So, and it could just be anything, whether it's a Broadway show, anything can pop up and someone can say, hey, I have an extra ticket to a show. I saw The Wiz a couple of weeks ago. I saw Hell's Kitchen last week. Just all this great culture that you get in New York. And there's a way that you can get it and not have to spend the $200 or the $300 for an orchestra seat. I have a subscription for a theater program, and I get a lot of these orchestra street seats for like $42.
Hmm.
And that's the only stuff that you can get in New York. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the great thing about New York. But what I love, and I tell people this all the time, I grew up going to Mississippi, so it's not like this isn't new for me. My
Mm-hmm.
grandparents moved back to Mississippi when I was young, and so I spent all my summers there. So I'm used to it. But what I tell people is that I have the best of both worlds. I have the country girl stuff down, I have the city girl stuff down, and so I never feel like boxed into anything. When
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of New York, I need a break. I go and hang out with grandma. I go to Mississippi. When I'm ready for culture, I come to New York. So they are different, but they are both amazing.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'm in New York. I can't just sit outside and not be bothered and hear the birds and see the beautiful sunrise the way you can in Mississippi. So I can get that. I can get the quiet and the serenity. So they serve purposes, both of them for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, does it? I'm just am thinking here, and this may not be a right question, but is it hard to feel settled in any place when you're doing that much back and forth, and then of course also taking care of your grandmother? Does it feel hard to feel like you have a place that's yours or home or whatever?
Thank you for asking that question. That is a great question because if I'm being honest, I do go through these weird it happens mostly when I leave Mississippi, though I have to be honest. When I come back to New York, I feel out of sorts sometimes and I feel a little depressed.
Mhm.
And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, okay, I gotta get reacclimated. And I'm tired because caretaking. I get up with grandma most days, between 5 and 6, depending on what's happening, to do her morning run, you know. And so when I get back to New York, I am beat. So
Mm-hmm.
the first month, I'm like, I'm sleeping a lot, and vice versa. When I leave New York and I get to Mississippi, I sleep a lot, and and I can't always sleep a lot because I have grandma. So yes, it is. You have to cram your life, especially in New York. I'm cramming 6 months. If you see my calendar of my friends, because my friends here, they're like family to me. People that want to hang out, my calendar is crazy. And it's like, oh, we haven't hung out yet. I'm like, I know. And when are we going to get together? And so that's hard because everything has to happen within this short amount of time, as opposed to have the whole year to like, yeah, we'll get together next month. Next month I might not be here. So yes, it's challenging in that way. And I'm always like, oh wow, it's already October. Oh man, I just have now I have October, and I just have, well, I usually leave Thanksgiving. And so
Okay.
thankfully Thanksgiving is later this year. So I'm actually like, all right, I have an extra week this year. Last year it was short. It was like the 23rd. And I'm like, wow, this is early. So it is challenging to kind of get settled. It is. I have to be honest, it is. And it takes me a minute but it's worth it because it's grandma. And I love my grandmother, and I like to say, we have been tied at the hip before I was even born.
Oh.
Always close, always. So it makes sense that I am one of her caretakers, and it's me. We are very, very tight, and so it's worth it. She's sacrificed a lot for me. So it's her time now. So whatever, all my little inconveniences and challenges, it's nothing compared to what I feel like is the blessing of being able to spend this much time with her at this stage in her life. I don't know if you guys saw Black History Baddies season 3, but she's actually interviewed in there.
Okay.
We'll have to look into that.
Yep.
No, I think
awesome.
I was catching it mostly on YouTube and different ones here and that kind of thing.
So season 3, she's in it. And
Wonderful.
so just being able to do that kind of stuff and to talk to her and to get family stories and to listen to her history. So it's worth whatever inconveniences that I have. And I'm sure my mother would agree, being able to take care of her mom at this stage of her life it's worth whatever we have to deal with in our lives.
Did you want to say something, Gina? Go ahead.
I'm just curious, when do you get time with your mom if you guys are juggling your schedule? Like that makes it harder for the two of you to spend time together.
Sure. And it's so funny. My mom came last year because now we do have great people. Like I said, we have family members who will step in. And so she's like family to us. She stayed with my grandma for a week and let my mom come up to New York because my mom loves New York, and she hadn't been able to do that because we've been doing this for about 7 years now. But what I do when I go to Mississippi, or when my mom comes for her tour of duty, I'll stay a couple of weeks just to hang out with my mother and have more time with her. And I've gone back. I've been back. You would think that I'm still there, but I've been back to Mississippi already 3 times this summer.
Okay.
There a couple of weeks ago because my mom and my stepdad, they always go to my stepdad's family reunion. So my mom's always like, oh, do you mind? So I'll go and I'll sit in for her. So I was with grandma for 2 weeks. It's always only supposed to be like a weekend, but I'll extend it. So I'm there longer than I'm supposed to be. So, but I get a chance to hang out with my mom, we're close too. So that's important for me to see her and hang out with her. And so we get to watch movies and stuff like that. And yeah, so that's important as well. Thank you for asking that.
Well, that brings up a thought that we talk a lot about talking in advance with our parents about getting their wishes for when that things start to decline for them. I would imagine that, well, I don't know how, that going through this with your grandmother, have you and your mother talked about, like, in the days when either your father or mother, some of this decline starts to happen, have you talked about what their wishes are, what they want to do, and have you done any of that?
So I'm my mother's only child. And so I tell my mother all the time, listen, you need to stay on your toes, honey, because you will be put in a nursing home if you don't. Don't make me mad. You will go to a nursing home. You know, my mom and I have not spoken about that in terms of what she wants. I mean, I'm going to take care of my mother, you know. I guess we have the family like plotted, and in terms of like funeral arrangements and stuff like that. My grandmother, though, you never had to ask this woman what she wanted. I mean, from my mom said she's been talking about this since she was little. My grandmother, she has the dress, she has this, she has that, she's all the stuff. I'm like, Grandma, I don't want to talk about that stuff because I'm not good talking about that kind of stuff. I know it's part of life, but she is just so like out with it. Now remember, I want to wear this purple dress and I want that. I'm like, you can't even fit that purple dress anymore. It's too big for you. I don't care. I want to wear that purple dress and I want these kind of her whole thing is paid for. She paid for the whole funeral. She doesn't trust us to take care of anything like that. She's taking care of all of that stuff. And she wants to be right by my grave. She bought her tombstone, all of that stuff. Like years ago, like
Wow.
30 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, she's something else. And so she's just like, that's the way she talks about it. My mom and I know I'm the only one, so I'm gonna take care of her. And so that's
Yeah.
that.
I guess it was the thought of, like, would she want to stay at home? Would
Yes.
she want to, or would she rather go to a facility, and do you know all the financial stuff that you need to know, and stuff like that. That's kind of
Oh yeah.
what we try to help people to start thinking about that, at least, because one of the things we talk about is we would rather have them involved with the decisions versus to a point when they can't make that decision for themselves. So that's why we tend to advocate to talk early about, and not just funeral arrangements, but if you're incapable of or incapacitated or something, what would you want us to do? Who would you want to do this? All of that kind of stuff. So just something to think about for yourself, um, so that it makes it a little easier. We've seen a lot of people that, like you say, the fall happens, and all of a sudden the cognitive abilities start declining very, sometimes rapidly, and then they can't make the decisions for themselves, and you're stuck with, what do I do? Where do I get this, and where do I find this? And so anyway, that was my thought with that.
Oh yes, yes, yes. That is such a great point. And we talk about obviously insurance policies and where this is and where that thing is. And so we do talk about the financial aspect of it. And so I think I know a lot, and I probably can know more just in terms of like, okay, where exactly is it? How do I access it? I think that's important, just to know like I know it's there, but all right, what do I do to get to it?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I do agree with you that it is important, and I do think that in life many times we don't because we're thinking about the day-to-day stuff in life,
Mhm.
Mhm.
not really thinking that far ahead. And so just even
Mhm.
wills and all those things, I think that it is important, and I think that there is much more of a push now to talk about those things more than say back whatever before.
Right.
Well, and as you're seeing, your life is rapid fire. You're doing stuff for your grandmother, your work, all of that. So you don't always have the time to think about it. And that's so, yeah, we get that too. We understand that point too.
Yeah, I'm curious going back to when the doctor said that, your grandmother shouldn't be staying by herself anymore. Was she on board? Like, was that a bit of a struggle, or because some people are kind of resistant to that? Like, no.
No, she was fine because like I said, grandma, she loves having me around, and so she was fine with that. What she was resistant to was the stuff like, you got to use a walker now, lady. You got to use a walker. There are things that you just have. That took a while for her. I would see her sneaking down the hallway and, going by herself without the walker and everything. That was the big thing. Before that, it was convincing her to have them move the mailbox, because I don't know how much your listeners know about country living, but the
Mhm.
mailboxes are on one side of the road. So it
Mm.
doesn't matter if your house is on the other side of the road, your mailbox can be on the side of the road with the mailbox. The mail person can easily navigate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this lady, up until she was like 80 something, was still driving her car to the other side of the road, backing back. That is danger zone. And we were like, Grandma, I think when you turn 75, I think it is in that town, you can apply to have the mailbox put right in your yard.
Mm-hmm.
She held on to those papers for so long. So finally one day she just got spooked. She never told us what happened. She just said, all right, I'll send those papers in. I'm like, what happened? Whatever it was, she just got spooked about it. And so things like that, because she is fiercely independent. She has always been very, very independent. So things that made it seem like, as many people, that's taken away their independence and abilities. So it was more about that. It was not about us living with her, but definitely about things that made it seem like we are taking away her rights, things on her own. That was a struggle. But now she's fine with everything now.
She lets you guys take the trash out and
Lets us take the trash out and all that stuff.
Well, I talk about this a lot in the fact of, I always use the example of, you think about when you're 16 and you get the keys to the car for the first time, you get that driver's license, how exciting it is and how your world expands, you can do more, go more places. And think about now we're doing the opposite and we're contracting and how difficult that's got to be for them mentally as far, and socially. So yeah, I get the resistance. I'm afraid I'm going to be that way too myself. Yeah, not
Y'all
want
are.
to. Yeah,
Be honest. We who wants someone to tell them what to do?
yeah.
And I think what's very important as a caretaker or caregiver is to enable the person to feel like they have some agency in their own life and their own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I'm at the doctor with Grandma, I don't talk over her head. I say, Grandma, what do you think? Did you understand what the doctor said? Like, to tell them to direct the questions. My grandmother is very mentally sharp. So when they're asking me questions, I'm like, oh, you can ask her. Oh, what's her birthday? What's her weight? Oh, she can answer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she knows her birthday, she knows her date, her weight, she knows where she lives. Ask her those questions. Don't ask me.
Mm-hmm.
So things like that allow her to feel like, okay, I'm still a part of this. Or, Grandma, what do you think about that? And she'll
Mm-hmm.
say, oh, whatever you think. I'm like, yeah, I know, but tell me what you think. And then we'll make the decision together. So that way she doesn't feel like we're just trying to strip everything away. And I just say to her, listen, I would say the walker is there to keep you as independent as
Mm-hmm.
possible. That's what it's there for. Because if you fall and break your hip, that's it, sister. I can't pick you up. So what, you know what I mean? So I'm like, that helps you to still be able to do all the stuff that you can do on your own. She still does a lot of stuff on her own. She can still feed herself and she can still do a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, but if you fall, that stuff may be gone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I was able to finally encourage her to use the walker, to use it more and to use it. Now she can't live without. Now she's like, I'm like, lady, you can stand up without the walker now. Now it's just like, I need my walker. I'm like, now she's gone the other way. I'm like, you'll be okay. Like, all of a sudden you can walk without the walker. So yeah, I think it's important to help them, to allow them to feel like that they still have some agency in their own bodies.
Yeah, you said several great things there, Tracee. And I'm an occupational therapist and have worked in geriatrics for years. So yeah, people are funny about they don't feel like they're really walking if they're using a walker. And then I've got my people who love it. That it's like this keeps me going. And the other thing is just, occupational therapy is all about promoting someone being at the highest functional level independently that they can and safely. So how can you change things around? Because you're right. Why do we talk over people when they're sitting right there? Even my father, who's got significant dementia, he's been in and out of the hospital a lot. And before they give your medicine, they have to ask your name and birthday. And he can still spit that out. He says his name, he spells his name. And it is important no matter what someone's cognitive state is to include them, that they're still a person. And I think it can be easy to just kind of take over. And then you wonder why you get resistance. And you might get resistance about things that don't really feel connected, but they want that sense of control, just like a young child. They want to feel independent. They want to feel like there's something that they can do. And it just, yeah, it makes it so much easier when you work with them. And it sounds like you guys are doing an amazing job. And she does sound like an awesome, fiery, independent woman.
Yeah. She keeps me on my toes.
Well, and and thinking about that, Tracee, is there anything that Gina could answer? She's been in that field for 30 plus years. Is there anything that you need help in, or something that she could answer for you about
Or
what you're
what
going
things
through?
have you had the most challenges with? Yeah, maybe. Or
Um, Sometimes I think she's in recent history, like in the last couple of months, she's stuck on this. Well, I'm almost 100, so everything's almost 100. So sometimes she thinks she shouldn't do things. Like she was very resistant to this last round of physical therapy, and
Mhm.
and usually she loves the physical therapy. She loves to see Scott coming in. So all of a sudden she was like, "No, I'm almost 100. What do you guys think I'm gonna?" And we were like, "Okay, where's this coming from?" Eventually she was okay with it, but
Mhm.
she's been resistant to some things lately, doing things. And then some days she's fine, like getting up off of the couch. Sometimes she wants lots of help.
Mhm.
And some days she's like, "Oh, I got it." And I'm just, so I guess we just try to fill her out and see what's going on. Some days she pops up off of the bed, pops up, and some days she's like, "Oh, woe is me, I can barely make it." And I'm just like, okay. So I guess it's just, should we just go along with, just kind of fill her out and see where she is in that moment? Is that what you would suggest?
Yeah, I mean, and that, I work at a facility that there's independent living, assisted living, all these different levels. And, I work with a lot of people in their mid, late 90s and 100. Um, and younger people, which in my world is less than 90. I get 70-year-olds, I'm 78. And it's like, yeah, this lady over here is 95 and she's running circles around you. Um, we want to encourage them to keep moving, to keep their independence. But there is a point when you're like, you're 97, you're 99. I've had family members who are just like, no, don't give up. You want to keep going. And I'm like, at some point, you got to let go because this person is not going to live forever. And, I've had people, it's like, yeah, you're 99. You don't want to get out of bed today. I'm not going to make you. If I was 99, I didn't want to get up. Um,
If I make it that far, I'll be.
and the fact that she's not doing it every day, right? Because if she's not getting up every day, then she's going to decline quickly. Um, And it's because she sounds like she's got, all her wits about her that, she's got enough sense to, when she's able to do things that she does. But I'd be curious to have a conversation with her about, why now all of a sudden at 97, like, it's like what's the thought process going on there that, I had to tell someone recently, research shows it doesn't matter your age, you can always improve muscle strength, and they kind of laugh at me. And I'm like, it's true. Um,
Well, how old was like her mother or father when they passed?
So her mom sadly passed younger. She was probably like maybe late 50s. She had a heart, I
oh,
think she had a heart attack. My
oh,
Oh,
okay.
grandmother has heart condition too.
Hmm.
Her dad lived until he was 88, I believe.
Okay.
I don't
so
remember why he passed away. So my grandmother is the oldest. She's the last sibling left, last one of her family.
Okay.
So she's living the longest, and she is really, I want to say, resilient.
Hmm.
She loves life, and so obviously I always check in with her and say, "Hey, how's you doing? How's it going?" And are you still having fun? In that way. Or when she starts being mopey, I say, "So you ready to check out? Should we be planning your funeral?" No, no, no. I'm like, okay. just kind of, some of it is tongue in cheek, but some of it's serious. Like when she starts to like really be mopey and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to see what's going on with you. But she really does love life, and she loves to make plans, little plans, whether it's to get her hair done or, oh, I really wish you would get somebody to come and push these bushes back and things like that. So she still cares about landscaping and just all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She hasn't checked out on that thing and how she looks, and she's always been a fashionista, and so I try to continue to keep her looking really, buying her pretty stuff, and so she cares about her hair and all those things, so she's still caring about the stuff that you care about,
Mm-hmm.
she
Mm-hmm.
still cares about that kind of stuff, and she does her puzzles and her what do you call it, word finds, that's her thing.
Okay.
Buy her those for her birthday and stuff, and she writes in the dates and how long it takes her to do them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so she'll be like, "Oh, I did this one. I started on, September 30th, and I finished it on October 1st." Or so that's her thing. So she still cares about a lot of that stuff, but sometimes, obviously, I'm not 97, and I'm sure that going through your mind as you're looking at your life, and she goes, I can't believe I'm 97. She says that sometimes, and I can see in her eyes that what she's doing is she's being kind of somber and melancholy about life that has passed. And
Mm-hmm.
then what does that mean? I'm 97. How much longer am I going to be here? And so I see that. So I'm sensitive to that kind of thing. She's always been a hypochondriac. So we have to kind of differentiate what's her being a hypochondriac and what's her really being not feeling well.
Mm-hmm.
Usually that's when she's not talking. When she shuts up, because she's very loquacious, she's not feeling well. Other times I'm just like, all right, lady, we're going through this again. Well, today I thought was the day the Fred Sanford. I thought this is the day that I was gonna die.
Coming to see you, Elizabeth.
He pulls a Fred Sanford every day, So it's just like, okay, your doctor just told you yesterday, literally, her doctor just said last week that her heart looked great, that she was, I mean, he can't believe that her heart has actually gotten better than when she had the surgery and stuff. So she
Mm-hmm.
got great reports, so I just think that obviously none of us are going to live forever, but she likes the attention, and it's also just partly, hey, how much longer am I going to be here?
Mm-hmm.
So
It
for
sounds
now, mhm, yeah.
well. It sounds like she might have kind of a mindset of that 100 is the end, or that since nobody else has reached that, that's her reach. And I may be just talking to her about, hey, you could go to 105. There are people out there 110. And so maybe giving her that kind of hope. I don't know, but it sounds like she's kind of got locked into this idea that if she reaches 100, she's lucky, kind of thing. So I
I
don't
mean,
know.
that is
Her
kind of a
doctor
big,
told her she was going to go past 100, but he doesn't know. He's not God. No one knows what's going to happen. But
right.
I think that for some reason she just all of a sudden started being, I'm almost 100 years old. And so it's just like, okay. For the past year she's been doing that. I'm almost 100.
It's kind of become her thing to gets her out of things.
Well, Tracee, this has been just a wonderful conversation, and again, so happy that you joined us. If you would, for the audience, tell them how they can find the Back History Baddies, where they can find it. I'll also put it up on the description. But tell us a little bit about that, how they can find it, what other things you might be working on that we can look forward to too.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Thank you for asking. So I can be found on all social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, at Tracee Loran. That's Tracee Loran, Loran. Also, my website, traceeloran.com. You can see all of the baddies there. You can see all of the baddies on YouTube. You can see all of the baddies everywhere. The baddies are everywhere right now. All over the place. And so currently my producing partner, Stacey Holman, and I are working on a series called Queen of the Yard. We're going to have a Queen of the Yard podcast coming out.
Oh, okay.
Remember, but this series is about the HBCU Campus Queen competition that is over 100 years old, the tradition. And so our series is going to be a scripted series about that, but the podcast is going to be more docu-style.
Okay.
So we're really excited about that coming out, and just have a lot of other things. I have I've been featured in Authority magazine that just came out yesterday, so you guys can check that out. And so many wonderful things. I'm really excited about the things that are going on. I'm excited about where life is headed and where my career is headed, and also that I have an amazing publicist, Jessica Masuga, and she's one of the reasons that I'm talking to you guys today. And then so many other things have been going on, so I'm excited. But I'm really excited about continuing the journey with my grandmother and just getting to learn more and more and more about her life story. And I encourage all of your listeners that if you are a caretaker, caregiver, especially for one that is an elder, as much as you can, record them, talk to them, ask questions. You know, it doesn't have to be anything formal. For my grandmother, I just turn my phone on and just let her talk. Get those stories, take those pictures, whatever you can to really document these memories, because it is really special to be a caregiver to someone, especially someone who has lived such a long, rich life. So I would encourage you all to do that.
Well, again, thank you for being part of this, Tracee. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we'd love, just the stories you've told, and just that you're taking this time to, not only take care of your grandmother, but be there with her, and juggling that with your busy New York life. Because it is so special. It is important. I've moved my parents close to me in the past several months. And so they're like around the corner close. And just knowing that I have this time, it makes a difference.
So special. So
So
special.
thank you so much for being here and joining us. And we'll have to check out your upcoming podcast, and we'll definitely enjoy finding all the other baddies because they are a lot of fun, and we'll share links to all of that. So thank you for joining us today. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to leave comments. Please pass it on and share it with other people, and subscribe. You can also find Don and I at Focused Healthy Family and see the other work that we've done, the other podcasts we've done, the Ask the OT that we've been doing a couple times a month, where you can come on live or send questions ahead of time to just discuss caring for aging parents and answering some questions that you might have, or talking about different challenges. Check out Don and his EFT tapping work that he does. We've talked about self-care and how important that is to care for ourselves when we're caring for other people. And you can find all of this at focusedhealthyfamily.com. We'll share links for Tracee Loran so you can learn more about her. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and join us for each Thursday when we air our new podcast. And remember, how you speak to your children and your family today shapes their future and yours.